In this video, we'll be using approximately 8.5 by 11 inch products to demonstrate the differences in feeder setup for different product substrates. We'll start with paper sheets and thin products, glossy material, cardstock, and finally chipboard and corrugate material. There are three main feeder components that will aid in product setup: the separator, the hold down, and the rear wedge assembly. For all medium-sized products, such as the 8.5 by 11 inch sheets, be sure the small product wedges are rotated in the downward position so they do not make contact with the product. The roller support wedges should be in the horizontal operating position so they can support the stack as product is loaded. We are going to start with paper sheets. As the first step, raise the separator by turning the knob clockwise. Place one sheet of paper under the gate rollers and slowly lower the separator, turning the knob counterclockwise until you feel a slight drag on the product. For products this size, the hopper side guides can be set to the far left and right position because the wedge assembly will be forward enough to allow the side guides on the wedges to control the stack. Adjust each wedge side guide so there is about a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch of room for the product to move. Adjust the wedge assembly so the wedges are giving the product a little bit of lift in the back. This will aid in product separation. Take a stack of 10 to 15 sheets and fan them out and place them in the hopper. Again, grab about an inch stack of product, fan it out, and stick it in the hopper. You'll notice that the product is evenly fanned against the wedges. It is important to take the time to make sure this first step is done properly to assist in feeding later on. All Extreme XM feeder hoppers come with side guides and a center plate capable of up to 20 inch in stack height, but your operating stack height will depend on the type of product you're running. Some variables include the coefficient of friction of the sheets, such as running glossy sheets that tend to stick to one another, the rigidity of sheets such as paper versus chipboard, and the weight of the sheets. If you're feeding thin sheets that have a flimsy consistency and a lot of weight, you may only get 4 inches or less of stack height. If you're feeding corrugate material, you can get over 36 inches of stack height. We've loaded about a 3 to 4 inch stack in the hopper. Next, we are going to jog out a piece of product to check the position of the hold down. There should be a good amount of drag under the hold down. If not, take a 3/16 Allen wrench and lower the 2 screws located on either side of the hold down. Depending on what you're feeding into, the deflector plate can be adjusted up or down to help guide the product as it exits the discharge of the feeder. We'll start by jogging a few pieces through to make sure we're not getting any double sheets. Make sure that you're seeing a gap between each product so that the sheet sensor knows where each sheet starts and stops. For thin products such as these sheets, you can hold the jog button while adjusting the separator to get an even feed. If you're seeing double sheets, you can either lower the separator or provide more lift on the product by pushing in the wedge assembly. It is highly recommended to add a vacuum supply for this product to aid in product separation. As a standard operating feature, all Extreme XM feeders come with a vacuum assist manifold and vacuum belt. All you have to do is hook up a vacuum supply and you're ready to go. Once you find a good operating stack height, Try and keep the stack consistently at that height as you feed products. Next, we are going to set up the feeder for Glossy Products. Glossy product can be tricky to set up because the sheets tend to want to stick to one another and are difficult to separate. Again, it is highly recommended to add a vacuum supply when feeding this type of product. We're going to raise the separator and lower it onto one piece of product until there's some drag on the product. Fan out some product and load it into the hopper. Adjust the side guides so there's about an 1/8 inch of play for the product to move. And push in the wedge assembly to provide lift to the product. Now, let's jog out a few pieces, adjusting the separator as it feeds. Some glossy products tend to mark easily, so it's important not to tighten the separator too much to prevent marking. Depending on the product, you can get anywhere from 4 to 8 inches of stack height with glossy sheets. Running cardstock and tag board material is a simple setup. Just like before, adjust the separator, the side guides, and the wedge. Check the hole down and make adjustments if necessary, and jog a few pieces through. This is a much more rigid product, so product separation should be easy to achieve.
Depending on the product, you typically can achieve 8 inches or more of stack height.
When running corrugate material like these pizza backers, we are going to lower the roller support wedges. Again, raise the separator and lower it lightly on the product. This type of material needs very little lift from the wedge. Most likely, the hold down will need to be raised to allow the product through. Again, using a 3/16 Allen wrench, raise both screws so there is little drag on the product. The deflector plate will also need to be raised. This plate will barely need to touch the product, if at all. To address some issues you may experience during setup, you'll notice that there's a forward and reverse operating feature. This controls the direction of the gate rotation. While some feeders only have the option of forward or reverse, Extreme XM feeders can go either direction.
A rotating gate ensures uniform wear on the rollers so it will not create flat spots. For most products, it does not matter which direction the gate rollers turn.
In fact, you can power down the feeder, remove power to the gate, power on the feeder, and it will still function properly. In some rare cases, reverse rotation can cause slight peeling of the leading edge of the sheet as it comes in contact with the rollers. If this happens, power down your feeder and switch the rotation to forward. You should note that when feeding longer sheets in the forward position, the rotation might try to bring forward the second sheet in the stack, making it difficult to create the necessary gap between sheets when passing by the sheet sensor. The gate rotation is very gradual, approximately 4 to 4.5 minutes per rotation. The best way to verify that the blue rollers are turning is to remove all product from the feeder, set the feeder to a 0-0 count, set the timeout switch at the back of the feeder to off, set the speed to about 50%, place a finger on one of the rollers, then hit the cycle button. You will feel the gate rollers pulse and slowly rotate. If you prefer, you can mark one of the rollers to watch the rotation or observe one of the set screw holes while the rollers turn. You'll notice that 2 gate rollers are positioned directly over the main feed belt and 2 are spaced on either side. This will help control the skew of the product as it exits the feeder. If you do experience skewing a product as it exits the discharge of the feeder, we have some tips on how to correct that. First, make sure that the product and the side guides are positioned in the center of the hopper. Second, make sure that the wedge assembly is evenly supporting both sides of the product and is straight. And third, correct the angle of the separator. To do this, there are 4 bolts located on the front of the separator. By loosening each of the bolts, you can adjust the separator to the right or the left to help steer the product. Then retighten. If you ever want to add more stacking capability to your feeder, you can always add a bulk loader to your extreme feeder, which will automatically load the hopper and offset the stacking weight in the feeder. Product can be stacked up to 6 feet horizontally versus stacking product vertically in the hopper.